Hey everybody, welcome to our webinar. Thank you so much for joining us on this webinar on SoundScanNX. I'm Catherine Brill. I'm the product manager for BRYX, and I'm very happy to talk to you today about one of our product offerings for transportation that really helps streamline the sound classification of traffic noises that is needed when conducting noise impact studies. So let's get started right away. We are part of KCI, which is a leading civil engineering firm with offices throughout the country. And we are part of the products team, which focuses on developing and bringing to market advanced technology for professionals within the AEC industry. And today I'm joined by my colleagues, Brandon Glorioso, environmental planner, who has been instrumental in helping us develop SoundScanNX, Carl Keller, who is the leader of our machine learning team and original developer of SoundScanNX, and Jay Kwan, our product sales engineer. Our goals for this webinar include exploring a case study. In fact, Brandon is going to take us through the Port St. Lucie noise study that was done in Florida and talk about the results of that study. And from that study, we're going to learn how that project that Brandon was involved in led to the development of SoundScanNX. We're going to talk about how SoundScanNX can optimize audio classification of traffic noise recordings and learn more about the benefits of SoundScanNX and our BRYX platform. So to get started, I'm going to hand it over now to Brandon.
Thanks, Catherine, and thanks again for everyone for joining us today. So KCI was hired by the city of Port St. Lucie, Florida, to conduct a post-construction traffic noise monitoring study along the Crosstown Parkway corridor. The study was initiated in response to ongoing resident complaints about noise disturbances following the completion of the Crosstown Parkway extension project in 2019. The study included two phases. Phase 1, short-term noise monitoring, and Phase 2 included 24 hours noise monitoring. Slide. So in Phase 1, we conducted short-term monitoring at 36 noise receptors spanning from east of I-95 to the western approach on the Crosstown Parkway Bridge over the North Fork of the St. Lucie River. And you can see all these noise receptors that we monitored in the map shown on the slide. Monitoring was performed during AM and PM peak traffic hours across 8 weekdays. Most noise levels range between 55 and 59.9 dBA LEQ, which is within expected ranges but still raised concerns among residents. After completing Phase 1 of the study, we shared preliminary findings with the city and also relayed the concerns we heard directly from residents. Many reported that noise was the most disruptive during evenings and early mornings, especially on weekends. Specific complaints included loud motorcycles, loud music, cars revving engines and performing burnouts, modified exhaust systems, and speeding vehicles. One hotspot was the intersection of Floresta Drive and Crosstown Parkway, a newly constructed superstreet, where noise events were particularly intense. In response, we launched Phase 2, a weekend-long 24-hour monitoring study focused on residences adjacent to Crosstown Parkway between Mant Lane and the Crosstown Parkway Bridge. These locations, which are shown on the map displayed on the screen, were selected based on the volume of residents' concerns. The goal was to determine whether nighttime noise levels exceeded FHWA noise abatement criteria and whether the frequency and type of noise events interfered with outdoor speech. So Phase 2 involved 8 concurrent and continuous 24-hour monitoring sessions conducted over a 4-day period. We used Larson Davis Sound Advisor portable noise monitoring systems, which allowed us to remotely record and analyze sound events. These meters were configured to capture noise events above 65.5 dBA LEQ, levels that could interfere with speech and sleep, such as the types of disturbances residents had described during the phase 1 study. So here shows the results of the 24-hour monitoring study. Across all 8 receptors, we recorded 2,618 potential noise disturbance events. 61% were vehicles with modified or loud mufflers. Motorcycles were the second largest source. Most problematic hours were between 7 p.m. and 6 a.m. So this data validated resident concerns and highlighted the need for targeted mitigation, such as enhanced police presence, stricter enforcement of exhaust regulations, community education campaigns, installation of speed feedback signs, landscaping improvements, and hurricane-proof window upgrades for residences. Now let's talk about the challenges we faced during phase 2. So we had to manually review over 4,400 audio files, representing approximately 84 hours of recording across all 8 monitoring sites. This process was extremely time-consuming. 2 members spent between 2 to 3 weeks listening to and classifying the audio. And even with that effort, data integrity was a concern. Human review introduces variability, such as fatigue, distraction, perceptual differences, and inconsistent labeling, causing lower impact accuracy. Clearly, there has to be a better way to handle this kind of data. And fortunately, there is, and Catherine will now introduce that solution.
Thank you, Brandon. Yes, so when we learned about the struggles that Brandon had in analyzing all those audio files, we realized that this is a perfect use case for emerging technology. So we developed SoundScanNX. It is designed to eliminate those challenges that Brandon just discussed by very quickly processing a large volume of data, analyzing those audio recordings, and automatically identifying and classifying the different sources of the sounds. So SoundScanNX uses machine learning to classify those audio files. It can distinguish between traffic noises such as tire squeals, trucks, modified mufflers, from non-traffic sounds, including dogs, birds, voices, airplanes, etc. It is real world trained. It's built on a large variety of urban audio data sets. It also comes pre-trained. So some people have hesitations about using AI because they think that they have to actually train the AI solution, the AI model with their own data. We did all of that work for our users, and SoundScanNX is ready to run. It is pre-trained and ready to ingest audio files, analyze those files, and automatically generate output, eliminating the need for that very time-consuming, laborious, manual listening review of audio files. So it provides a lot of insight into that monitoring data to help address traffic noise complaints.
Thanks, Catherine. And so let's take a look at a direct comparison between the manual review time it took and the review time it took SoundScanNX. So the manual review of the 4,400 plus audio files took approximately 2 to 3 weeks to review. And then using SoundScanNX, the same classification task was completed within just 30 minutes, and that's nearly 100% reduction in time spent. And this is a clear demonstration on how SoundScanNX is kind of like a game changer for long-term traffic noise studies. So AI is kind of essential for long-term traffic noise monitoring, and here's why. Real-world confirmation, the Port St. Lucie noise study validated citizen complaints, but it also proved that manual analysis isn't scalable. Time and cost optimization, SoundScanNX dramatically reduces classification time, which lowers project cost and frees up staff for higher value tasks. Objective data integrity. Unlike human reviewer, SoundScanNX delivers consistent, verifiable, and unbiased data. Targeted mitigation. Most importantly, it provides actionable intelligence. You don't just get a noise report, you kind of get a detailed breakdown of what's causing the noise. And then that level of insight is critical for designing effective, lasting, and mitigation strategies, especially the ones that I mentioned earlier. And with that, I'll pass it over to Jay, who will walk us through the BRYX platform.
Thank you, Brandon. So now everyone's like curious about, how can I use the SoundScan NX? So that being said, everything is built from our BRYX platform, which is this is the pre-trained AI platform that is geared specifically toward to the AC industry. So we do have a different models that we need for different industry from the AC. And you can find the SoundScanNX from GoBricks.com. One of the great things about our BRYX platform is we could take care of the large amount of the data at once. And secondly is how fast we can run those large data will be the key. And this is the reason why we help Brandon's project, which could help saving a lot of time to this. And the one last thing is we're not trying to replace any humans. We want engineers or potential users to utilize our tools to optimize the design process. So that being said, if you are curious about it, if you want to try out the SoundScan NX and also you have your data already in you, please go to the GoBricks.com. This is the cloud-based format. So therefore, you can simply create your accounts and you are ready to use the free trial license and you can actually run your models on it. And during this time, if you have any questions, I'll be the one that will be helping you to answering all your questions. We could also set up one-on-one demo meetings too, and so on and so on. So this is the my contact information, and also we have our different blogs that we posted on our website. So please check our website and also find us BRYX from the LinkedIn to follow and hear the news and or the latest webinars update on that. And I understand that we receive a lot of questions, so I want to get back to Q&A sessions where Brendan and our team can answer the questions.
All right, let's get started with answering some questions. All right, our first question is from Frank. Was several questions, so I'll start with the first one. Was this validated through listening to all audio files? Maybe hand that over to Carl, who was the developer of SoundScanNX. Carl, can you help with this one?
Yeah, so I'm curious if that question, I saw that question pop up while Brandon was speaking about their experience, so I wasn't sure if they were asking about the validation of listening to the audio files that were classified by the audio team or whether it was through the model. I can address the model side of it and say yes, we've listened to all audio files. We do quite a bit of pre-processing of the audio files to break them up into trainable snippets, typically 4-second long snippets. And I've personally myself listened to over 100,000 audio files in the course of this project. So that said, I think everybody in the group may be sensitive to what Brandon pointed out, which is, you have to have some stability in terms of who is doing the classifications. And so in our case, we have kind of a feedback loop going between the person who might be doing the classification of audio that they hear and experts, engineers like Brandon in the field who would review that. So it's a fairly standard machine learning cycle that we have in place to not only build but improve the model over time.
Okay.
I can see some of the next questions, Catherine. I don't know if you
Yeah, they
you
seem
want me to
similar.
just continue.
Just continue, I think. Yep.
So the human inaccuracy level, I don't have a number for that. Brandon might, but we were primarily in the machine learning building process, tracking our own metrics of accuracy, precision, recall, AUC, and a number of other metrics. So we've got a fairly sophisticated way of tracking how the model is doing on the data that we have. Audio files of each type. Like I said earlier, we started out with over 100,000 total samples of 4-second snippets to work with. We downsampled initially from that to about 20,000 audio files in our first training. And we've since adapted our training model to an augmentation strategy they sometimes call audiomentation. But you take the clearest examples of the sounds that you have in your 4-second files, and then you modify those programmatically by either changing time or varying frequency, et cetera, so that you can kind of get a program generated collection of audio specific to what you classified initially. So that's been the method that we used. Our accuracy for training currently sits at, our accuracy numbers at 95.1%. We also have a batch precision of about 94% and recall of about 94%. So those are all high numbers. Obviously, in the face of wild data, we're going to see different results because obviously it's data that the model's never seen before. But our process is to consume data through active learning. So as we are generating results, we can feed that wild data back into our learning process and make the model better over time. So that's what we've been engaged in. And as far as the validating it over different locations, road conditions, et cetera, that's actually not something that we've actively done so far. We've had, the original data set that we had access to do this. So we haven't moved into that part of it yet.
Thanks, Carl. Ryan is asking, does SoundScanNX have the ability to triangulate to pinpoint the location of a peak sound event?
No, we don't do that. Brandon, you might be able to do
I
that.
don't think SoundScan at this time can do that, but that is definitely something we can probably look into later on.
And Frank, you asked about the audio file durations. I feel like Carl already answered that, but Carl, do you want to talk to that question?
Yeah, our training audio files were 4 seconds. The files that we drew it from were anywhere between probably 10 and 20 or 30 seconds. They were varying lengths.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, because the noise meters that we use, you can set them to record a certain time before the event occurred and a certain time after. So it could vary between 10 to 20 seconds.
And how does it work when 2 or more noise sources are within the same audio file?
That's a very good question. We defined the notion of dominant sound very specifically related to mill frequency cepstral coefficients. So for those who know how that works, those coefficients are generated over the span of the sound. So there are many samples taken over, say, a 4-second interval. You can then decide whether you want to use the mean of those coefficients or whether you want to use, say, a 75th percentile of those coefficients to define the dominant sound. We started actually using the mean as the definition of the dominant sound within one of those sound segments. And then over the course of the project have actually switched that to 75th percentile. So we're a little more sensitive to picking out some of the short duration but high energy sounds like birds and those kinds of things. So as we continue to tune the model, we might be changing, the way we do that, but that's how we do it currently.
Okay. How does the accuracy of the AI algorithm compare to the human accuracy? And then Frank also has a question about what are those metrics? I'm not sure I understand what that question's about, but the accuracy comparison, human versus AI. I know we had the speed comparison in one of our slides.
Yeah, we haven't on the St. Lucie project. I don't believe that we've had the time to do that full comparison yet, Brandon, unless you have already. But.
And how many audio files were used for training? Are these all unique recordings, or each recording is divided into 4-second files and added to the training pool?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Initially, we did just slice up everything into 4-second recordings. Then we switched that to an overlapping 4-second window. And then, as I mentioned later on, really to avoid the problem of sort of overconditioning, overfitting, where we might get lots of sounds of essentially the same thing. We then classified those sounds uniquely and switched strategies to the augmentation strategy that I mentioned earlier. So at this point, I think we're fairly sure that we're not just learning to the same sounds from the same recordings over and over again. We've got a broad sampling. There were also some sounds that we were asked to classify that didn't really appear in our recordings. So for those, we augmented them with publicly available sounds, which were quite different. For instance, there was very little in many of the publicly available sounds that we had access to. There was little or no background noise. So you're talking about a studio environment as opposed to the sound recordings that we had that had, a lot of background noise and sort of road rumble, that kind of thing going on. So very different recordings in general. We didn't do that a lot, but we had to for a couple of classes.
Okay, and then two other model training questions for you, Carl. One is the accuracy of the model of 95%. Can you talk a little bit more about that? I think Frank is asking about self-accuracy.
Yeah, that's the accuracy of the model when it's compared to the training data that it has. Okay. So that's what I'm citing there.
And was the model validated on any external data set?
We haven't validated on a wild data set.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for all those questions. They're great. We're almost reaching to the end of our time. If you have any other questions, please type them into the chat, or Jay's email address is still on the screen. So you can always email Jay for more answers. And I do want to put a plug in for our blog. It's the link is from our BRYX, GoBRYX.com website, but the URL is also on that slide. We post on a regular basis articles on timely topics within the transportation, construction, power and water industries. So I highly encourage you to check out our blog for more information about SoundScan and other BRYX models. And as Jay mentioned, we do have a LinkedIn page. Again, the BRYX LinkedIn page has a lot of information that we post about what's going on with our AI solutions for transportation and other industries. All right. Well, I think that is it for our webinar today. Thank you for joining us, and hope to hear from all of you soon. Thank you and have a good day.